and we're waiting for Juana to give the thumbs up on the other end to make sure that the Mile High Superfans group we're being brought to them. So whenever Juana gives us the thumbs up, we'll know we're good to go. I see him nodding his head. There's the thumbs up. All right, Carl, take it away, buddy.
All right. Well, welcome in, everyone, to Building the Broncos. I'm your host, Carl Dumler, and joining me, as usual, Mr. Nick Kendell. You've really taken that Pacific Northwest Mountaineer man look to heart, man. I think this is the second week in a row you've been in the plaid.
Really? I just it's cold where I'm working right now, so I'm wearing a heavier plaid to work, and I got my lumberjack kind of going on. But I know it really clashes. It really clashes. But I guess my wife won't forgive me for that, but hopefully you guys in the chat will for the navy blue and the black. But we're here to talk some football. Obviously, it's back to the pit of misery for the Denver Broncos. Different year, same stuff, but there's different stuff to talk about, obviously, too. And that's why we're here. That's why you guys are in here to listen to us talk some football. But Carl, what's going on with you? What's new? What's new in the hood? What's going on in Kansas?
Well, it was nice here. I got out my Daisy Dukes and washed the car, and yeah, it was, I mean, vehicles kept coming by about 4 or 5 different times. I saw some flashes going, but no, it's been nice. Got a nice day with my daughter here after she got out of school, and just kind of enjoying life, getting ready for the holidays with Thanksgiving, Christmas, everything coming up, trying to get everything done. We usually go on our big vacation here beginning of December. So excited to get away for a week. If we can, we'll see.
Yeah.
You never know week to week here, but no, life has been good here.
Well, that's good to hear. And thinking of anybody out there that's being affected by the state of the world right now, obviously we're here for you guys. We care about you. And obviously the chat as well really cares about you guys. So hope everyone that you guys know is staying safe as well. Unfortunately, going to be sticking up here in the Pacific Northwest for the holidays this year because of what's going on in the world, but we'll make best. We'll make do. And guys, also want to make sure you go on over to iTunes, leave us a 5-star rating and a comment, like, subscribe, and share. Yeah, wherever you're joining us, YouTube especially, click those thumbs up on Facebook. Go to milehighhuddle.com for all of our written content and also the MHH community content, which is great. Follow us on Twitter at milehighhuddle and at BTB Football Pod. Also, make sure you follow me on Twitter. Obviously, I'm the best one here. No, I'm just kidding. But Nick Kendell, MHH, and also Carl, of course. Carl is the nicest guy. Also, maybe if you get enough followers, he'll post some of those Daisy Duke shorts for you guys. But follow Carl at Carl Dumler, MHH. And guys, we also want to let you know that tonight's live stream is brought to you by sportsbetting.com. Broncos country, gambling is now legal in the great state of Colorado. And here's what makes sportsbetting.com a no-brainer for all sports fans. They have sharp odds and low juice. They have in-house bookmakers, so they don't use a third-party provider of odds. They also have reduced juice and the best prices. They have the hassle-free bonuses, one-time rollover, which means the bonus money is yours after you bet it just one time. Other times you have to bet like 5 to 30 times before you can get that money. They also have 24/7 live customer support, which is very helpful. And also, I mean, if you want to make a call at 3 a.m., you're saying, hey, you know what? I want to bother somebody. 24/7, they mean it. And here's the kicker at sportsbetting.com/Mile High Huddle. You can get a 100% risk-free week of sports betting up to $1,000. Not just one bet, but every single one of your bets. Play for a week, and if your losses exceed your winnings at the end of the week, sportsbetting.com/Mile High Huddle will cover you 100% of the difference up to a $1,000 one-time rollover. So head on over to sports betting at www.sportsbetting.com/Mile High Huddle. Once again, that's www.sportsbetting.com/Mile High Huddle and capitalize on a risk-free week of sports betting up to $1,000. What are you guys waiting for? Also, guys, gosh, I know it stinks, but we're here again to talk some Broncos football. Another year, 3-6 for the 4th year in a row. Is that correct, Carl? So
it's pretty close.
It's been unfortunate, but I'll kick it off to you since you came up with the topic idea today while I was busy running I almost said the magic word, a trial for a vaccine. I did not say it, guys, but I'll kick it over to you.
Well, first, want to give a shout out to Stu Meat for sending us a couple here, super stickers. If you have any questions, Stu Meat, for us, you can ask us. We'll try to get to that, of course, but appreciate that. And anytime I see Stu, my best friend calls me Stu because my middle name is Stewart. So I always think they're talking to me, and then I see in the chat, hey, Stu, and I'm like, oh, hey, how you doing? But no, really appreciate that. And our topic today, it is just kind of looking at what good can still come from 2020. Because no matter what, that's kind of where we're at. you got to look for the positives and all the negative that is going around, not only with the Broncos, but with everything. And there are still some positives. This is a young team that some of the young players are being some of the biggest playmakers. And so, I mean, the nice thing is you're starting to see some major players emerge, like the guy I'm going to talk about first here of Garrett Bowles. He has stayed consistent. The last few years, he's had about a 4 or 5 game stretch that left you going, okay, maybe this guy's figuring it out. And then he'd go back to his old ways. This year, for the most part, he has stayed very, very consistent and looking like a true long-term solution at the left tackle position. I mean, I think it's pretty much sign Garrett Bowles, and then every other player that needs to be signed is a very distant second, third, fourth, fifth kind of thing. Just because that position is so hard to find talented players. And even when you find a talented one, like if you go draft a rookie, it takes time to develop them, just like you're seeing with Garrett Bowles. Maybe not as long as he has taken, but this is why you sign a guy like him. And so he's very much impressed me this year, and I really hope that he is in the future for the Broncos.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, I was on KOA with Benjamin Albright and Ryan Edwards, and they asked me if, because Bowles finally looking like he got it right, if that incentivizes Elway to sign him anymore. You can't let him go after putting in the effort to develop him all these years and taking the lumps you did via the fans and the media for playing Garrett Bowles. And while you'd hope that the ownership or whoever is making those decisions, Elway being the general manager, would be able to separate that, not have that kind of pressure to get a deal done. That way you don't make a bad deal. I think that there is something to be said for the human element there. And also just the tackle situation in general has been one missed swing after another. I mean, the only move at tackle that Elway, I think, has done really well. I think there's been 2 moves we should give him some credit. The Russell Okung deal, which he negotiated, both Elway and Okung himself, and that turned out pretty well for the Broncos overall. They should have gotten a comp pick for it, but whatever.
I know.
The Jared Veldier acquisition was solid. And then now it turns out Garrett Bowles, also Orlando Franklin. So
I was going to say, yeah.
I really think that they're going to bring him back. The question is whether he is tagged or in its extension. And I think Garrett Bowles was once again, let me check it real quick, out of all the starters for the Broncos in this last game, which was a dreadful game for the offense all around, Garrett Bowles was the highest rated starter according to Pro Football Focus. So another good game. I know that the offensive line is really struggling this year, and we'll have plenty of time to get into this. It's been crazy how bad the run blocking has been, because that's been something the Broncos offensive line has been so good at the past few years. Even when they struggle in pass blocking, run blocking has been top 10. And this year it's down the crapper. So, but Garrett Bowles playing extremely well. He's been a big positive. You're right. They simply just can't let him out the door. You don't know what's going to happen with Juwan James. Elijah Wilkinson has proven thoroughly he is not it. Dotson's probably more of that Jared Veldier 1 year out the door kind of thing. So Garrett Bowles, if you have a left tackle that's the best guy on your line and he's playing as well as he is, you just can't let him walk. And even if that means you lose Justin Simmons, I mean, that sucks. Or Shelby Harris, that sucks. But, this is the hand you're dealt. You should have extended that 5th year option when you had the chance. But, here we are.
So question for you with that, because we have this from Terry Randall. We're going to have to pay Bowles like $20 million. It's looking more and more like it's heading that direction.
Thanks, David Bakhtiari.
I know, yeah. $23 million a year?
I think it was 23, 25. I think maybe the last year is a little bit of window dressing because the guarantees aren't that high. Yeah. But still, that resets the market. And you bet Bowles and his agent were just clapping their hands when that happened.
So question for you. Let's say the Broncos do get him signed for that $20 million a year, maybe a 3 or 4 year contract, whatever. Is that a sign that the Broncos are going to the draft for the quarterback position?
No, I don't think so. I think they can be independent of each other. Okay. I think that you still Garrett Bowles, at this point, you can't let him go. It's either a tag or it's a contract extension. You really just can't go into next year. Juwan James, who the heck knows? I mean, maybe he'll have a Bryce Callahan year next year where everybody's kind of making fun of, does he even exist? And then all of a sudden he comes out and plays like an all-pro. I mean, who knows? He's still a talented guy, and he's actually younger than Garrett Bowles, I think. Or they're like only a week age different. He might be a week older. Yeah. But still, I think you just can't let Bowles go. So signing Bowles, retaining Bowles should be completely independent of the quarterback situation. That's a premium position, a guy who's still under 30 years old in a position that can play well into their late 30s. I mean, some of the best tackles in football are old. So really, it's not an issue. So I think it's completely independent of the quarterback situation.
Okay. Makes sense. Yeah. I'm thinking about when you hand out that kind of contract, you might be paying Cortland Sutton here the next year, and you're trying to figure out how do we balance this cap? Well, Drew Lock's only got 2 more years on his contract. If you go trade for Sam Darnold, he's only got a couple years left on his contract. So
do you think that Vic Fangio and Elway are operating in a reality that extends beyond a couple years at this point?
Good point. I mean, Elway and Fangio's contract are up after next season. Is that right?
Yes, I believe so. But both of them, I mean, it's shit or get off the pot time. So you're talking long term. I just don't think they are going to be operating that way. And that's a big reason. Also, we'll have this conversation 100 times going forward. I'm all about getting the right quarterback in the draft. I really think they're going to go for a vet because they don't have the time to go through a rookie season. They have to. Vic Fangio is coaching for his job. I don't think he's going to be gone because they don't have the finances to pay another head coach on top of already paying Vic Fangio. So I see people talking about, who's going to be the head coach next year? If Vegas is giving you odds right now, put money on Vic Fangio.
Right. But, well, that flows right into Mr. Boggins' super chat here, where he says, I think there will be a lot fewer coaching and roster moves than people think this offseason. McMahon is the only exception. No owners to push change.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great comment. And Mr. Boggins coming also from the Pacific Northwest, not too far here from Seattle. So we'll have to meet up once the word we cannot say is on the tail end, I guess, the way to put it. Yeah. But no, that's a good comment. No owners to push for it. But also, the Broncos don't have cash outside of the organization. And because of what's going on in the world, they don't have much money anyway. So they're not going to be able to pay Vic Fangio's full next season contract and also pay for a splash coaching hire. Because I saw somebody else. We had Jeff C., who I've appreciate him. I think Bowana had his comments up a second ago, but he was talking about Urban Meyer being hired. I mean, that would be fun. Broncos don't have the money to pay Urban Meyer and Vic Fangio. They are really, I mean, we can get down to it, but the Broncos organization is going nowhere fast until the ownership situation is resolved. You can blame the quarterback, you can blame the coaches, you can blame the offensive line. Got to cut the snake head off at the top. And the Broncos' inability of direction, finances, and everything comes from the ownership. And I know a lot of people are very sentimental. They want to keep it in the Bowen family, but where it's going right now, this is where you're at. This is where it's going to continue to be until that's resolved.
Right. And this is where you're running into the issue of the higher ups of Elway, of Ellis. They really have no real push to push the ownership side of things, because it could mean them getting fired. So if anything, they kind of have the drive to stay status quo.
Stagnant.
Right. Until the NFL really pushes things. And unfortunately, that means the Broncos are going to be in a difficult situation unless they just happen to get really fortunate, like Seattle back in 2011 and 12, where they just had these outstanding drafts that just really skyrocketed their team to the next generation. I mean, getting Russell Wilson, a top 3 quarterback in the 3rd round, Richard Sherman, Earl Thomas, all those guys that just became all pro talents. It's hard to see the Broncos really having a whole lot of success because, like you said, they don't have the cash to really pay the players that need to get paid. They can't go get the splash free agents. And at times I appreciate that they don't go and overpay in free agency. But it also means a lot of times that you're stuck with these players that are either high risk, like Juwan James that has a lot of injuries, and you probably ended up way overpaying him anyway. And I mean, really, if guys are hitting free agency, it's not usually a good sign. I mean, very few players are sitting there going, okay, this is going to be an all-pro moving to the next team. Justin Simmons might be the exception this year.
Yeah. Should have got a deal done. Should have done the 5th-year option on Bulls. Should have, could have, would have. Shouldn't have had Jeff Driscoll as the main backup. It's Captain Hindsight podcast here today, building the Captain Hindsight Broncos. But it's definitely unfortunate in that way. But again, it's a positive. Garrett Bowles is playing well. That's a positive. Bryce Callahan, God bless it, Bryce Callahan in that first half was making highlight play after highlight play. I mean, Broncos got a cornerback there, and he's still pretty young. There's questions about the long-term health, But, that's where they are. And also, Justin Simmons has been an all-pro in the first half of the season, according to Pro Football Focus. So the Broncos got talent. It's just there's enough things misfiring that you can't get it. And with the I would guess we'll call it conflicting relationship between Pat Shurmur and what he wants to do, which is very basic quarterbacking stuff, guys. He's not asking anybody to reinvent the wheel. It's just Locke isn't executing basic quarterback stuff. So, and again, you can blame Shurmur. Sure, he deserves blame for not putting Drew Lock in some positive situations, but there's plays to be made out there over and over again that are very basic. Any baseline quarterback in the NFL should be able to make. So again, that's a problem. Gosh, we could go on for a while. We're supposed to be talking about the positives. I'm going to go for a positive here real quick. And this may be actually a negative to some people, but I think it's a positive. The Broncos, honestly, on the offensive line right now, they don't have many people that they're going to have to replace next year, which means that anybody that they add is going to be a positive addition in depth, as well as Juwan James coming back. So again, Garrett Bowles, I think no doubt he's going to be tagged or signed a long-term contract. Dalton Reisner will be back. He's struggled this year. I think he's been playing better as of late, but he's struggled. Lloyd Cushenberry has all caps underlined struggled. Glasgow's been injured, but he'll be back. Both those guys will be back. Cushenberry will be a year better. And then also you're probably going to get either Juwan James or somebody better, a draft pick to at least supplement the right tackle position. So again, maybe some people, they don't have the offensive line. They got to address, they got to blow up the offensive line. At the worst case, they're going to have depth, more experience, and they can continue to add to this unit just to make it a better overall offensive line. So I think, again, another season of Mike Munchak, hopefully a regular offseason or a new normal type of offseason. Yeah. Garrett Bowles back. I think there is reason for optimism at the offensive line because it's not like you're losing three of the guys that are going to be gone, assuming you bring back Garrett Bowles.
Right. I think that's been one of there's been two issues on the offensive line. I think one has been the changing of offensive line coaches over and over again, making it very difficult for guys like Garrett Bowles to learn. I mean, him being second year with Mike Munchak, we're seeing he goes from a guy that everybody wants out of the organization yesterday to possible all-pro player. And so, I mean, you're seeing those kind of benefits from just having Mike Munchak, but also just they have been changing offensive line personnel like crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had three different starting centers in the last about 4 years. Left guard has been all over the place. Right guard's been all over the place. Right tackle obviously has been way all over the place. So really, I mean, Garrett Bowles has been the only consistent player on that offensive line. And like you said, having those guys back where they have better communication, hopefully get a decent offseason working with Munchak, that does pay off big time moving forward. So I know there's a lot of people that really want them to go and spend big time draft capital on the offensive line. I'd say one, you're seeing with Lloyd Cushenberry, putting a rookie in doesn't mean that you're all of a sudden going to have a great starter at the position.
Especially year one.
Right.
2 to 3.
There are a few that work out pretty well. Your boy from Iowa has been looking pretty good in Tampa Bay. I will give him that.
But we're talking a first round pick there.
Right. Yeah. But otherwise, I mean, most of the time it really does. It takes time no matter what position you put him at. I mean, we're seeing with Dalton Reisner, he's had his struggles and most people were really high on him after his rookie season. And so I'd say consistency matters more than trying to add more talent to the group and think that's going to solve the issues.
Yeah, I definitely think so. We had Stu Meat coming to give us a super sticker earlier. So if you guys do that, we're going to try to get to you. Stu Meat coming in. Wish it was us. I think maybe we should have gone to a full rebuild. Gosh, you've been following me for years. I've been screaming that since the year after they took Paxton Lynch. Blow it up. Like this is obvious. It's not working.
Yeah.
But they rather tread water and try to compete rather than actually contend.
Right.
The difference.
Right.
So and also instead of the plug and play, I hear you, Stu Meat. I agree.
Yeah, I mean, the quarterback position is a great example of that.
Yeah.
I mean, you take Drew Lock, but you also sign Joe Flacco to a big deal. And so instead of saying, hey, we're all in with Drew Lock and investing around this guy, we're going to take that $18 million a year and the draft pick that was traded to get him and say, this is all for you, Drew Lock. They want to put their eggs in many different baskets and hope something works out. It's kind of, I mean, we know that Kubiak was not a big Paxton Lynch fan. He did not want to use a draft pick on the kid. But there again, you have a first-round quarterback. Yes, he stunk. He was terrible. But we've seen where teams that truly commit to their first-round quarterback and say, we're going to build the entire offense around them, Lamar Jackson, they're playing a very different offense than really anybody else in the league because they want to maximize the talent of Lamar Jackson. Broncos needed to do the same with Paxton Lynch, but instead they kind of did this halfway in. Let's go with Trevor Siemian. Now let's go with Case Keenum. And they just kind of did this back and forth, and it just doesn't work in the NFL. You got to be full in and say, this is it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not a great situation. I woke up in a cold sweat the other day because I was thinking, gosh, what would be the most milquetoast move the Broncos could make at quarterback this offseason that would make sense for Shermer, Fangio, and Elway? And the name that came to me was Alex Smith. Don't say never, man. We can have a good defense and a veteran quarterback that knows the Andy Reid tree. Don't say never. I called Flacco when I didn't really hope for it, and it kind of happened. It just, I don't know. There's a gut feeling there. It's the Alex Smith, which would be just so ho-hum. But really happy he's back for his own sake after what he's gone through. But
right.
We got David Kilgore coming in here. We really need to get Sewell or a QB in the first round. That would be great. If you want any of those guys, you need a top 5 pick. Given the next 3 games the Broncos play, getting to 3-9 seems, I wouldn't say likely, but very, very possible. I think also, I mean, if you're picking top 5, we have to have that quarterback conversation, but there also needs to be a conversation for cornerback, edge rusher, linebacker, and interior defensive line as well. So when you're picking that high, really, you can't be so pinpoint on a singular position. You have needs across the board. So you're just going to have to be flexible and hopefully take the best player.
Right. That's one thing I loved about the 2011 draft with, I mean, taking Von Miller.
Best player in the draft.
Yeah. I mean, really, he didn't completely fit because they were playing a 4-3 defense at that time, and he was better at that 3-4 outside linebacker kind of position. But they still found a way. Okay, this is the best talent. Let's build around this guy and find a way to make him work. If your defense can't work with Von Miller, you don't have the right defense.
Yeah. And
so that's kind of how they committed to that situation. And obviously it's paid off big for the Broncos. So you're right. You take best player available if you're that high. I mean, that's how they ended up with Bradley Chubb.
Maybe should have taken Josh Allen in hindsight, but I still stand by Bradley Chubb, though, over Quentin Nelson. There's a little bit of a position of value baked into that. Obviously, it's a nuanced conversation. We could have a 10-hour long podcast about draft philosophy.
Right.
We got a good friend of the show, though. Good friend of mine. Also, Paul coming in. Paul, how you doing? Hi, friends. Positive I'm getting sleep between 2 and 5 p.m. on Sundays. Blow up. You need ownership, not named Bolins. I will give a shout out to Patrick Smythe for everything that he has gone through in the post-Pat Bowlen era for the Broncos and dealing with some of the Bowlen shenanigans since then. So he should be working in the Oval Office or something. He's done some good job good job there. And Jay Boss coming in, our ownership situation is as bad as the Lions. Yeah, the Lions. I mean, at least they have stability. Right now, it's just there's nobody there. It's kind of like you go to the ship that's running into an iceberg and you get to the captain's deck or whatever, and there's nobody in there. It's just empty. It's like, or the janitor's in there. It's like, what the hell's going on? There should be somebody up here.
Or you've got like 6 people claiming to be the captain.
Yeah.
And no clue which one to listen to. And they're all fighting about who has the power and saying the other one's an idiot. I mean, it's unfortunate to see the family fighting in the way they are. And I mean, I hope they can figure out a way to mend relationships once this all gets figured out. But I think one of the best ways to help with mending those relationships is honestly take away ownership, take away that incentive of who gets to have all of this power and not have the rest of the siblings going, I should have been that person. Just take it away. Let them divide up the money and move on.
And if you guys haven't yet, I know this is a competing site out there, but The Athletic, Nikki Jablava did a piece on the Bowlen grab for power. I guess it's kind of a Games of Thronesy billions type of scenario, but a secret Bolin child came out. If you don't have his athletic subscription, too bad. But you should really check out that piece because it really gets into some details of just what an absolute Charlie Foxtrot the Broncos ownership situation is and has been, and likely the root cause of what's going on here. So, gosh, it's really frustrating. It's where it all starts.
I'm with you, but like I said, we're trying to keep it positive. Look at the good things moving forward. I'd say another area that is looking great is, I would say, you talk about the offensive line. I would say really weaponry wise, the Broncos are pretty set looking into 2021.
I wouldn't say the offensive line is set. I'm just saying everything there is a building block to build upon. Okay. Nobody should be leaving. But
right.
Yeah, continue. Sorry, I just wanted to, I don't want to.
Right. But like I said, looking at offensive weapons, you got 2 tight ends that look like they're pretty darn good weapons.
Yes.
You got 3 wide receivers that are showing. Cortland Sutton's not here this year, but he's still a great wide receiver. We already know that. Jerry Jeudy has really taken his game to a new level. I'm loving what I'm seeing from him. Very, very impressed. He's really stepped up as a leader, making plays. Really one of the few that's making plays right now. No matter, and Drew Lock's not being very accurate in a lot of his throws to Jerry Jeudy, and he's almost got him killed about 3 times. But he's still there. But KJ Hamler's made a couple nice plays, got a couple touchdowns the last few weeks. I'll take it. Not too bad there. So, and then you hope that probably Philip Lindsay gets signed or something moving forward. He should be a restricted free agent no matter what. So there's a way to keep him for 2021 too.
And I think there's a strong possibility that Melvin Gordon's contract can be voided due to the DUI. So that should free up some cash, maybe make some moves there. And I will say, I've been very hard on the Melvin Gordon signing. He ran so hard on Sunday. Like, the offensive line was doing him no favors. It was like some of the hardest 8-yard runs I've ever seen in my life to get to where he got. So that's definitely a good point about Lindsay. And you're right about the wide receivers. I think Tim Patrick is also a restricted free agent.
Yes, he is.
So you get him back as well. I'm excited about Tyree Cleveland as well. So I do agree with you. The offense, they're young, and not every single one of these guys is going to hit, but you just have such a wide variety of guys that are entering year 2, year 3, that the offense is set. If they can get the quarterback situation squared away, and obviously the offensive line, which we've been saying for years, has to get better. Left tackle finally looking solid. You're going to have probably the same left guard next year, probably the same right guard next year. Hopefully Lloyd Cushenberry takes the next step. You still should have Juwan James back. He costs more to get rid of than to keep. So everybody's saying cut him, trade him. No,
it's not happening.
It's not happening. It's like, it just makes no sense.
Yeah.
I definitely agree with you. That is a positive. And gosh, that's something to be look forward to. I know that it's very frustrating right now to watch the offense, the interior offensive line getting blown up constantly every week, no run lanes, and then the quarterback position not only struggling but regressing. So it's frustrating, but there are reasons for optimism looking long term.
Yeah. I see a really nice question here from Bernard coming in. Everyone asking why they didn't draft Allen. I've been saying, would people have the kind of patience to let him develop that Buffalo did? He was not that great his rookie season and just above average last year too. Let Locke struggle and go through the up and downs before asking of letting him go. So here's one thing. I don't think the Broncos have had the coaching staff to ever take advantage of what Josh Allen brings to the table. They haven't had the stability at the coaching staff because it's been changing on a consistent basis. And he's another one of those players. Again, you have to be fully committed and saying, this is it. This is our guy. We're going to be through the struggles and through the best times. And I know the Broncos are sticking with Locke. He might be out this Sunday. We'll see on the injury report moving forward. But also part of it is Josh Allen has stayed healthy. So there again, he's at least gotten that opportunity to show week in, week out. Where Locke, he's blown his opportunities because he's been hurt. Now, that's not fully his fault, but it's still there. That's part of it. His opportunities are running out quick. And Josh Allen at least showed progress from rookie year to second year. Now from second year to third year, you've seen the leaps each year of what he's doing. Drew Lock, we're seeing regression year 2.
Yeah, and also there's 2 points here that I see. I know Josh Allen's a common person to say, look what happened. They were patient, and now he's emerging into the superstar. Well, for one, Josh Allen was drafted in the first round. What does that mean? They have an extra year of control. That's big. That 5th year compared to the 4 years is big. It's one reason that I thought if the Broncos did want Drew Lock, they should have probably tried to, at the time I was saying, trade back up to 32, get that 5th year of control. It just gives you another year to play with, and that's really big for the quarterback position, another cost-controlled year. The second thing is that Josh Allen, bar none, I would say, is the toolsiest quarterback in the NFL. We're talking about the guy with the strongest arm in the NFL. We're talking about a guy that is the best red zone quarterback in the NFL. I mean, he's a weapon in itself. It's like baby Cam Newton out there, but I think actually showing better progression as an accurate passer. So again, Drew Lock has a good arm. I think it would be like a B level for an NFL starting quarterback in terms of his velocity, but like you're talking about rating him, his arm strength, like let's just put it in Madden terms. He'd be like an 87, where Josh Allen would be like a 98, 99. Yeah. On top of him being one of the best, if not the best, red zone weapons in football at the quarterback position. So there's an argument to be made for the types of tools that he has being more warranted the weight as compared to Drew Lock, who has good arm talent, okay athleticism, but we're not talking about a complete difference maker on a tier of his own in the entire NFL. And I think that's an important distinction.
And I would add, I mean, we are looking at possibly a top 5, top 10 pick for the Broncos this year, where Buffalo, with Josh Allen, they have progressively gotten later in the draft, making it where getting a top-tier quarterback to replace him hasn't really been much of an option. I mean, year 2, he was already in the playoffs. So there is no replacing him, even if he had his struggles there in year 2. Now, year 3, again, they're looking like they're going to the playoffs. There's no reason to replace him. It's a very, very different situation. And I'm not saying that fully give up on Lock or anything like that, but I'm just saying there's enough question marks there that if you have the opportunity to get a first-round quarterback, a guy that you can build around, go that direction.
And I also I like the process. Maybe the results didn't work out the best, but let's say the Broncos don't go quarterback this year. Drew Lock turns out to be not the guy. This next 7 games, he plays the way he's played all this year. Not the guy. So then you have an option. You have to figure out the quarterback position. That's just really, after ownership, that's probably the next big domino. You got to figure that out. So you have 2 choices here. You can either be aggressive this year, go get a guy. Obviously, I think Trevor Lawrence is off the table. When you beat the Jets, it was over. Bury that dream. Maybe you can do it in Madden. Maybe you can turn off the Xbox after you have Trevor Lawrence win a Super Bowl for the Broncos, but that's not happening. Maybe Justin Fields, but I think you're probably out of range there too. I think you probably would have had to have lost one of the Chargers or the Patriots games. There's just too many quarterback needy teams ahead of you. So now you're in the Zach Wilson, Trey Lance range. I mean, that makes me nervous. I'm not a Kyle Trask guy at all. Miss me with any quarterback that is completely pocket dependent in today's NFL. I can't. I'm too scarred by Josh Rosen and also Dwayne Haskins. Guys that can't create, I don't think they can't develop in today's NFL like a guy like Peyton Manning and Tom Brady could over 15 years ago. So the question is, do you go for the quarterback this year, or do you do what the Bills did when they got Josh Allen? The year prior, they started accumulating capital for the following season. They traded back. They started accumulating because they knew that they were not in on that class, which turns out the pick I think they traded down from ended up being Patrick Mahomes. So maybe the results weren't the best. Granted, Josh Allen looks really good in his right. He's not Patrick Mahomes. But they traded back, I think, from 10 or 12, and they accumulated picks for the upcoming draft cycle. And then that's when they went to go get that quarterback, making up moves, trading Cordy Glenn to get more picks, and slowly moving up to eventually get Josh Allen. Either way, I'm fine with the process. You just have to have a plan to go get a quarterback. It can't just be this milquetoast average guy year after year hoping that you luck into a second-round quarterback. You have to have a plan. It probably needs to be from the draft. And whether that be this year or the following year, you need to start making those moves to put yourself in position now.
Yep.
Now.
I'm with you. All right. Well, WE coming in here with the super chat. Really appreciate it. Do you guys think Elway, Shermer, Fangio are out of touch with the modern NFL? I don't trust Elway to get our next quarterback. And do you pick Lance or Wilson?
I'll be honest with you. I'm not ready to dub either of those quarterbacks quarterback 3 yet or quarterback 2. I know some people might actually have Zach Wilson above Justin Fields because of the ability outside of structure. But oh wow, Carl, I'm not ready to get there yet.
Right.
I've learned to bide my time in that, because a huge chunk of this process is also that post college season analysis where those guys are on the whiteboards, the pro days. I know they're throwing against air, but they're asking them to do NFL throws. I mean, if we just judged Justin Herbert based on his tape last year, you see a guy with tools, but he's throwing bubble screens. Like, how many actually NFL throws are out there? You get an idea in those pro days, and then when the coaches get their hands on them in the meetings as well. So the tape is still number one, but you have to be able to parse through it to figure out what's actually valuable in the tape. So I'm waiting and seeing on Lance and Wilson. I like both. I'm not sure I'm ready to say the Broncos have to go that way. I'm not sure if either of them will be available in the Broncos pick. We still have 7 games to go. And I'm not ready to give up on Locke yet either. I think that these 7 games, he could turn around. He's got tools. He really does. He has arm talent. If he can get that together, there's no reason that they couldn't go into next season with him. Granted, they might need to do a Mariota/Tannehill where they have somebody behind him that's breathing down his neck, not a Jeff Driscoll, for the love of God. But so yeah, I'm biting. Long answer there. Yeah, Lance or Wilson? Yes.
I understood the Driscoll move this year just because you wanted to give Locke the confidence that he is the man, that he doesn't have to worry about somebody being behind him. But yes, you're seeing now the Broncos need to give him some competition if they decide they're still going to let him be possibly the man in 2021. I don't think they're out of touch, Elway, Shermer, Fangio. I think Elway has done pretty darn well with the last couple drafts. I think they've looked pretty darn sharp. I think they've taken very competent players that fit their system, that fit many times being one of the better players available. I mean, most drafts, I'd say from like about 2015 to 2017, we had on here many times where we're like, oh, what are they doing? Why would they take this guy? Where now a lot of the picks were going, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I had that player rated pretty close to that. So I don't think Elway's completely out of touch. I think he's also being hamstrung just because of the cash issues. So that plays a part in why he can't always get everybody signed that you want to have signed. Shermer, like you said, his offense, he's not reinventing the wheel. He's not doing anything different that you haven't seen an Andy Reid do, and Andy Reid, part of it is he just has the quarterback to really take advantage of what he wants to do. Shermer is hamstrung because he just doesn't have a quarterback that's understanding what they want to do. They can't get the run game going because offensive line's getting 0 push. And there's just a lot of youth as well. So Shermer's made mistakes, but not any more than I would say any other offensive coordinator out there has really made. Fangio, I think he's done pretty well of keeping the team engaged even through losing. I think you're seeing his defense, even with all the injuries, they're still being competent, which I think is saying a lot of what he brings to the table.
Despite 4 interceptions.
Right, yeah. I mean, no defensive coordinator can overcome that. No head coach can overcome that. Has he made his mistakes? Yeah, he's made mistakes as a head coach, but I like Fangio. I think if you get him a competent quarterback, if you get them a competent offense that's putting up 24 points a game, I think they win 9-10 games most years.
Are you calling for Alex Smith to the Broncos next year? Is that what's happening right now?
Competent? No. But so then final, the Lance or Wilson, I'm a big Zach Wilson fan. I think what you see, at least what I've seen from him, he does a great job of going through his reads. I mean, you see his head going across the field, finding, and I've had people say, well, he has all these wide open throws. Well, he's also finding the easiest throw. Part of what I've seen from Drew Lock is he is making the most difficult throw, and it has to be perfect. And plus then the receiver has to make a perfect catch to make the play work. I mean, that throwing into triple coverage early in the game. Why? If that guy's triple covered, that means somebody else has single coverage somewhere else. Zach Wilson is finding the easiest matchup on the field and taking advantage of it.
Yeah, and also I would like to make a comment where there's a point when you're evaluating tape where an NFL throw is just an NFL throw. You could have a gosh darn 3-year-old out there, as long as he's like standing around him, the accuracy, the pinpoint, the timing, the touch, etc. It's still an NFL throw. It doesn't matter who they're going up against. And Zach Wilson's tape is littered with NFL throws that are just, pinpoint. I don't care who he's playing against. Southeast College, Children of the Blind State. I don't care. Those are NFL throws. So again, we got Kenneth Booker coming in. Kenneth, good to see you. We always love hearing from you. Should we bring back David Cutcliffe to help lock? Should we bring in David Cutcliffe to help lock? I think David Cutcliffe likes where he's at. I don't think he's going to be leaving Duke anytime soon. I think he's actually they're not going to be competing in the ACC. They're not going to be Clemson, but they're respectable. We also got another one from Kenneth Booker here. We need to focus on the offensive line. They have him running like an episode of Walking Dead. He's not athletic enough to compensate for that. I mean, it's definitely an issue, but it's also an issue because they're struggling so bad on first down, which leads to second down where they don't trust Locke to execute a play. So they're running on second down, which is a stupid decision, but it's because they don't want to be in 3rd and 10, because when you're 3rd and 10 with what this offense is doing right now, you're sunk. So it's really a negative feedback loop at this point. Offensive line does need to get better, specifically the interior, the right tackle position. Calvin Anderson, I know he likes to tweet this guy, the quiet guy, but he wasn't that good out there. And we got Dennis Woods coming in too. Speaking of the right tackle position, don't we need a quality right tackle to back up James? If I've learned anything this year, it's that we don't have a competent backup there. Amen. And that's a big thing. We'll get a chance to talk about this as we get closer. I mean, the Broncos are 3-6 now. And obviously the content for this podcast, it is building the Broncos. It's probably going to start to get more draft oriented because that's just where we are.
I know. I got excited. I saw a few comments that said, start talking about the draft, guys. I'm like, oh, we're getting some people. Here we go. Not quite yet. We're not going to get into it a whole lot, but you're right. We'll get into some here.
But your comment here is very good. I agree with you, Dennis Woods. Don't we need to get a quality right tackle to back up James? I don't trust James. You still have him mid next year, which is a very good lottery ticket. I guess you already spent it. It's kind of like you spent big money on a honeymoon, right? And she left you at the altar. You either have a chance to not go and that money is sunk, or you can go and just, make the most of it. And that's kind of where we are with Juwan James at this point. You've already paid for it. It costs more, honestly, to not go. Then you have to pay for food at home where it's all inclusive down in Cancun. You might as well go. You could have a good time. So
how'd you know that's where I went?
That's we haven't taken a honeymoon or we had a destination wedding, but still and then this happened to the world. But I think you need to look at a backup right tackle. And I am not against it all. Also taking a offensive tackle in the first round, even if you are depending on Juwan James and you sign Garrett Bowles, because the position is that important and you're probably moving on from Juwan James after this year. So, we got, what did that say? I saw somebody making fun of me there. Look like a 10-gallon cowboy hat on Nick's head. Love the dude, but the hat looks a tad large. I always pick on Nick with love. I mean, I guess it is a little large. I just pull it down. I look really, really cool that way. That's how the kids are wearing it these days. This is honestly how I watch the Broncos games these days, just to make me, so I can get by now.
So can I tell you how I watched the Broncos game this last week?
Sure.
I watched it with my daughter, and we had dance music playing in the background. And so I'd watch each play, and then because I'd be mad, I'd just start jumping up and down with her dancing to remind myself that it's just a game. It's just a game. Dancing with my daughter is a lot more fun than watching a Broncos game right now. So yeah, I understand wanting to pull it over your head instead of see what's going on the field. Because every week you kind of think, okay, maybe this will be the week they show something a little bit, and then they just do the same thing.
And I am very, very concerned for this upcoming week because Brian Flores, despite I would say only okay talent on the defense of the Dolphins, Brian Flores is scheming up some dandies, and especially with his blitz packages. And if there's one thing that Drew Lock is struggling with, it is doing anything pre-snap to assess where pressure is coming from and where to go with the ball. This is still a ways away. We're still kind of reflecting on the game from last Sunday, but this Dolphins team, their defense, the way they're playing, the way they're scheming, man, if Drew Lock does play even let's say average, I would be surprised. I think it's going to be bad. I think he's going to really struggle.
I'm with you. It's going to be, if he has a great game, I will be shocked. I really will be. Just because this will be one of the toughest. It'll be one of the toughest matchups that he has as a quarterback. He has not shown this year that he is doing great at reading what a defense is doing to him. I mean, that's why teams are blitzing the heck out of him. It's not just because the interior offensive line is struggling. It's because Drew Lock doesn't see blitzes coming. And it's caused him to take a lot of really bad sacks, fumble, bad interceptions. So I expect to see a lot of that this week. So I'm hoping I can be pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, it's looking more and more like Deshaun Kaiser, which is not great. But that's where we are. And let me see. We need to go back to the old defense. This 3-4 crap is not cutting it. Put Bradley Chubb at defensive end. I mean, they play a 4-2-5 most of the time anyways. So 3-4, 4-3, that's not really the defense anymore. You're playing nickel most of the time, and you're going to see Chubb aligned at 7 technique for a majority of snaps anyway.
Right. 15 years ago, I would have agreed with you that would matter more. But everybody's playing so many hybrid defenses right now. Really, that 4-3-3-4 idea is it's gone out the window in a lot of ways.
It's 4-2-5 or 3-3-5.
Yep.
That's what you need to talk about as far as packages. And honestly, it really irritates me. I know that guy like Mike Purcell deserves to get out there and talk when they do the Sunday night, where they've come from, Nicholas Kendall, University of Iowa, that kind of thing. But we need to have 5 defensive backs out there for when they're announcing the teams, because those guys are the starters.
Yeah.
So I'll get off my podium there.
All right. We have. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, what the heck happened to my boy Ojemudia this week? Okay, I still am somewhat confused about what happened. I know that Devontae Harris has been waived, so Ojemudia can obviously come in and take special teams reps. I hope he's not going to run into his own guys like Harris did this last week. But what happened with Ojemudia? Can you walk me through that? Because I'm still a little bit confused. I know that Callahan's playing great, but Bassie had a solid game against the Falcons. I still don't think he's great in coverage, but I know Ojemudia struggled as well. But what's going on?
I really have no clue, because Callahan's best spot really is still the slot. Yeah, he's having a great season on the outside, but if especially those third down plays, if you have an opportunity to get him on the interior, going against, especially, the Raiders have a great slot receiver that they go to on third down on a regular basis. So having Callahan on him made so much sense, and they didn't do it this week. That was one of the few times that I've really questioned what Fangio and Donatell are doing when it comes to personnel.
Yeah, no, it's I don't know what happened there. So we got a couple coming in. I just wanted to see if you had any thoughts on that, because I kept looking for it.
I did too. I didn't understand it either.
So we got Stew Meat coming in again. Great name. It's getting to be Stew Meat time of year up here in the Northwest. It's starting to get cold and rainy. I'm wet right now. But coming to the Super Circle, we love you, Stu. Thank you very much. And we also have Richie Rich coming in. Richie Rich, I think we were talking on Twitter the other day about, is there any alternative to Facebook out there? And just for the sake of First Amendment kind of conversation, we kind of spun off there. But I think seems like there's a market now. So get back to me on Twitter, buddy. I like to talk beyond football sometimes. But he's coming in. Is Kush the reason for the interior issues? I would say that he's part of probably the main issue there. But Reisner has stepped back this year a little bit. He actually, after that ankle injury last year, he played pretty poor down the stretch, and we kind of blamed ankle injury, rookie wall. Hasn't been that good this year either, and a part of that could be because of Kush as well. And then also right guard position. I think Glasgow has been okay, maybe above average on some games, but he's also been injured, which has really hurt him as well. So right. I think the main thing is Kush. Yeah, Schlottman's been not good.
Now, I know everybody really loved his one block on the Lindsey touchdown run, but if you watch the rest of that game, they really targeted him a lot because they viewed him as the weak link. Cushenberry, he is in the run game especially has been terrible. Go back and watch some of these games, because I really focused on him in this last one. There are so many run plays where he is not blocking anyone because he either doesn't know where he's supposed to go, or he is just not getting to the block that he needs to make. And so I do think that he has been a huge problem for this offense this year. And I liked Cushenberry in the draft, but this is exactly what I saw as a problem for him in college as well.
There's a reason I wanted Matt Hennessy.
Mm-hmm.
That was my center of choice. That being said, I was not the biggest Tyler Beatis fan, because I thought he didn't move very well. But turns out he was extremely injured last year and played through it, and is playing okay right now. And I'm not ready to give up on Cushenberry yet either. I've made this point probably the last 3 shows I've been on, is that the Broncos' past 2 centers, Matt Paradis and Connor McGovern, spent their first year in the NFL on the practice squad, getting acclimated in the weight room and just the scheme side of things. Cushenberry has been thrown to the fire. And turns out that was a bad mistake by the Broncos. They maybe should have signed a center like a BJ Finney or something like that, just to give yourself a floor for when this kind of happens. But man, it's been bad, and everything's been spiraling out of there. I mean, honestly, the Broncos probably have, if not the worst, damn close for the worst center and right tackle in football. And you have a left tackle playing at an all-pro level, definitely a Pro Bowl level. Doesn't matter. And this kind of comes back to everyone blaming Bowles constantly over the past few years. I'm like, man, I thought he was playing closer to serviceable than terrible, but like, you replace him, you're not fixing the offensive line. It's a unit problem. So Here we are.
All right, Kevin Peterson coming in here with the super chat. It's also because Shermer's play calls on first down puts them in bad spots. If we don't pound the rock early, we won't win. Every time 25 starts, I curse. So I do. Melvin Gordon, like you said, this last game, he was running about as hard as I've ever seen him run. There were a lot of plays where he should have been hit in the back, or should have been tackled in the backfield, and he turned it into a positive play. So I do get that Lindsey probably has earned the starting job over Melvin Gordon because of his fumbles and legal issues and everything else. Philip Lindsey's been the man. But I'd say, especially these last couple games, Melvin Gordon has been one of the few real bright spots for the offense. Now, yeah, Pat Shurmur's play calls, I don't know. I still think some of this, yes, Shurmur's not calling everything perfect, but some of it is the offensive line's getting zero push. So it's hard to want to run on first down when every run play is going for pretty much 0 yards. When you're struggling to run, it's hard to want to go that direction. And then, like you said, second down, at that point, do you trust Locke, or do you just try to pick up a few yards to make third down halfway serviceable? And so the whole thing is, it's tough to figure out how much blame to put on each person that's involved in it.
Yep, it's an issue, and it's probably not going to be resolved this year. And you can scream and cry what you want about the offensive line not being fair for Drew Lock, but not many quarterbacks are put in perfect situations and they still end up succeeding. I mean, go look at the Chiefs' offensive line right now. They are injured as heck, and the interior offensive line for them the past couple of years, not very good. Quarterback able to overcome it, and scheme able to overcome it. So there we are. And can you toss that back up one? That was a long one, but we want to make sure we get to it. And we got Bernard coming in. Also, I just really like that Corgi. Shout out to Corgis, guys. Look at how Daniel Jones is looking better so far this year compared to his rookie season. Jason Garrett is actually coaching him up and telling him the mistakes he's making, also letting him use his athleticism more as well. Shurmur seems to be trying to use Locke as a straight pocket passer. I think there might be something to that, but also I'd like to see the splits of Daniel Jones versus the NFC East versus not the NFC East. Because I think Drew Lock would be looking pretty good if he was able to play 6 games against the gosh darn NFC East, because they are hot trash.
Right. And I'd say Lock is still getting a lot of bootleg plays, getting him out of the pocket, trying to play to his strengths in that way, but you can't do that every play. A quarterback still has to be able to play from the pocket at some point.
Within structure, yeah.
Right. And Drew Lock just has not shown that so far. If his first read is not open, you see him right off the bat trying to get out of the pocket to the right. And teams know that tendency, so they send pressure towards that right tackle, right guard spot, not only because that has been a weak spot for the Broncos on the offensive line, but because also then that makes Drew Lock very uncomfortable if he can't get out to the right side in a hurry. And it's led to a lot of bad plays from Drew Lock and the offense in total.
Yep. Cross sports straight. Arnaudo to the Yanks for a first pick. Well, Carl, 2 sad Cardinal fans here, because we like to tease a good buddy of ours for a long time about that Arnaudo was going to be a Cardinal, but maybe eventually, just to still tease him. But thank you for the update, Kenneth. And hey, there's stuff happening in the baseball world, at least. Honestly, this may be, again, hindsight's 2020, but man, maybe it'd have been better if the Broncos lost to the Chargers, so then they would have been sellers at the deadline, because now you have these guys that I don't know if they're going to be able to play. Yeah. They'd be able to pay them. So
Right.
Too bad.
And Arenado, I do feel, I don't know. I mean, going to the Yankees, he's going to the hated Yankees, but
I don't hate the Yankees. I hate the Cubs.
I don't either.
It's
The
just,
Cubs are much worse. But, hey, I've been saying this guy is Hall of Fame player that's not getting recognized hardly other than for his defense because he's playing for the Rockies. And I know we got Rockies fans on here, and I'm sorry, but it's kind of like the Broncos right now. They don't have the money to spend to actually build a championship roster.
Yep. No, that's a good point. We don't want to go too down. I know the season's getting out of hand quickly, but we don't want to go too far down down that rabbit hole. And Kenneth, thank you for keeping us up on that. But Carl, I guess we got about 5 minutes left before we get out of here, unless some supers come across. What are you looking forward? What are you looking for going forward the rest of the season? What is what is the bullet point? Why keep watching? Other than you guys can come commiserate in our misery. But what are you watching for?
Well, I mean, like I said, I'm looking for the young guys. Jerry Jeudy, KJ Hamler, Noah Fant, even Tyree Cleveland, if he gets a chance to get back on the field. I'd love to see him get a few more touches, see what he can bring to the table. Defensively, Draymond Jones has looked great. I mean, he's one of the few guys really making plays in the backfield. Loving it. Ajim is getting a few more reps lately, and I've been impressed for what I thought he would be this year. He needed a year anyway, but he's showing well in his opportunities that he's brought onto the field. And a little bit of Bradley Chubb. I want to see him really continue to take steps forward. He's made some really boneheaded mistakes lately. I don't know what his deal is of just making bad penalties at bad times, but I want to see him take that next step because, I mean, he's a top 5 pick. You expect that guy to be your franchise for the next 10, 15 years, just like Von Miller was for the Broncos here, back in 2011. You want Bradley Chubb to be that next guy that can do that. Maybe
a little bit unfair of a bar to reach to for Chubb.
Okay, it's true, but still, you expect him to be the true leader on the field, not the guy making the big mistakes. Yeah. And so I want to see what he does for the next 7 games because, I mean, here in the next year, you're going to start figuring out, are you going to give him the 5th-year option? And is he going to be the guy that allows you to move on from Von Miller? And, I mean, we've been talking about how edge rusher could be 1st-round pick this year. So I don't think that's as much a showing of Bradley Chubb, but still, you're only going to probably choose one of those guys to pay moving forward, not both.
Yep, we got Kevin Peterson coming in. Love the Yanks. Do you think they are limiting Phil's touches so they keep his numbers down and don't have to pay him next year? I don't think that's the case. I don't think they're playing that level of 3D chess. I just think that the game got away from them and the interior offensive line was getting blown up, so they went with who they thought was the tougher runner of the two that's able to handle it and fall forward, I guess, when the interior offensive line is getting blown up and the defense is sending run blitzes like they were. So right. I think they just got away from them. Sometimes that happens. And really honest, I know it goes against statistics, but when you have arguably the worst quarterback in the NFL right now, at least the worst passing game, maybe not the worst quarterback, but the worst passing game, at least according to EPA, maybe you should lean on that run game more, even though it goes against common practice and the direction teams probably should be building and going, because you have just much more possibility for explosive plays via the pass game, but it's just not working right now for the Broncos.
Right. Charlie Beagle's right. Do not take a kickoff return. They should not do that at all the rest of the year.
And my positive, before we get out of here, is I think we're one day closer to Tom McMahon being relieved of his duties. And I think, let's Charlie Beagle coming. Charlie, I love you. You're so funny. We have at least 3 people that could place McMahon right here. One day closer, it's got to be. I know he's the best yes man in the business, I guess, but, enough's enough. But, guys, that's going to do it for us today. We got to get out of here. The show always goes fast, but, we have a time constraints. You guys can find us on Twitter. Find Carl at Carl Dumler MHH and myself at Kendell MHH. Also, go on over to iTunes. Leave us a 5-star rating and a comment. Like, subscribe, share on Facebook. Like, subscribe, share on YouTube, like on Facebook. Luke messed with my outline here. Everything's different. How dare he? Now I'm all frazzled. Also follow us on Twitter at Mile High Huddle and at BTB Football Pod. We appreciate the heck out of you guys. If you have any comments or anything, really hit us up on Twitter. We can continue that conversation there. Shout out to Bawana for working everything behind the scenes. We wouldn't be able to do the show without him. guys, I know it's 3-6 season again, 4th year in a row. It sucks, but there are positives. There's still football to be played. The book's not written on lock. The book's not written on this 2020 Broncos team. So we'll be with you every step along the way, see how it ends, and hopefully it gets better from here. Love y'all. Stay safe and go Broncos.